Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share it to your folks. What's stopping you? Seriously, what's stopping you? Ask yourself. It's just one button, 1 second. Not even a second. Do that for your boy. Support black business. Yo. So all my men across the globe, especially my black brothers, I got a question to ask y'all. For those who've been deemed the label passive at one point in your lives or even to this day, how did y'all perceive it? Was it always in the context of a compliment? Or was it always in the context of an insult? As a guy who's been labeled passive throughout his 30 plus years of life, it always leans more towards the latter than the former. But I think that says a lot more about how we view certain traits in men rather than pertaining to myself personally. So, in honor of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, let's talk about passiveness. Provide a little bit of context about my life to kind of give you a kind of a introduction to what I mean. Growing up as a black person, Growing up as a black person, there's this unspoken rule and code of how you're supposed to present yourself in American society, or just in the world in general. As a black man, you're supposed to be assertive. You're supposed to take command. You're supposed to take up space. Your presence is supposed to be loud and available. So imagine being the guy that was quiet. Maybe not even quiet. How about easygoing? How about non-confrontational? How about, albeit friendly? People will notice that, and not in a good way. Now let's flip it on the other side. Because I grew up in white suburbia. That means white majority neighborhoods, white majority schools. A lot of times I was the only black kid in school because I had honor classes. So imagine being a white person who don't really have a lot of experience with black folks, and that's a lot more white people than they care to admit. Their only first black experience is what they see on the news or in media. TRL, MTV, BET, 106 in Park, the television shows that have black characters and have the whole stereotypes around them. TRL is old as hell. And then you meet me and interact with me day-to-day basis, and I fit none of those stereotypes. I don't fit the rappers that you see in BET, in the music videos. I don't fit the athletes that you see in the sports programs. And I don't even fit the actors that play the black characters in the TV series. Maybe Keenan or Steve Urkel. That's what they were related to me. Or Chris from Everybody Hates Chris. I get that a lot too. You don't necessarily fit the boxes that they expect you to be. And I moved around a lot. I didn't just stay in Texas, and I didn't just stay in Tennessee. The reaction was albeit the same. Passive meant you were soft. Passive meant that you were not built right as a black man, because you can't be successful as a black man being a passive person. And hearing that throughout your ages, especially your childhood, messes with you. I know it messed with me. Now, before I go any further, let's clear up the confusion about being a passive person, because I think a lot of people misconstrue it with being permissible. There is a difference. When they think about passive, they're really talking about permissible, where you are not pushy, you have no backbone, you allow everything to happen to you, even bad things. You don't stand up for yourself. Those are the things that they connect to passiveness, when it's really permissible. See, the thing is, when it comes about being passive, it's a behavior. It's about how you move through the world. Being calm, non-confrontational, not inserting yourself in a situation. That's being passive. Being permissible is about judgment, what you allow, what you accept, those types of things. You can still be a passive person and have boundaries. That's the key difference. Temperament versus standards. People think a man that doesn't list or shout his boundaries means he must not have any. That's not the case. I have boundaries. I have standards. I just don't have to perform them for you. Now let's talk about how different groups view passiveness. Let's start with the obvious and the biggest culprit of them. Men. Yeah, I know, talking bad about men and men's mental health awareness month, but bear with me. They are the biggest judges when it comes to that trait in other men. And logically it should make sense, right? Because in the male dominant spaces, it's all about competition, dominance. So encountering somebody who does not have that same mentality, that does not care about being the loudest in the room and just fine with just chilling in the room, they see that as weakness. That means he's soft. That means he's not manly. He's a bitch. They'll even go a step further and say that he exhibits feminine traits. He's a feminine man, because they cannot accept the fact that men are not a monolith, and that how he acts exists outside the framework of how they were raised and how they were programmed to handling life. They're uncomfortable, so they dismiss it. That's why you get a lot of dudes trying to overcompensate with their aggressiveness, or worse, being so nonchalant and emotionally unavailable. Seriously, a lot of you niggas really do that so much it gets so annoying. It's more corny than the guys that you think are passive or emotional. Like, how the fuck y'all operate? A dude can't be friendly? Y'all have a problem with being friendly? Y'all can't just say hi or something like that? Y'all angry or unapproachable from day one when y'all wake up?
You angry at breakfast, nigga? You gangbanging on bacon, nigga? This is...
Y'all niggas need to get y'all shit together. Now, it ain't just the men. Because ladies, I gotta get at y'all too. But y'all's is for a different reason. Because there's a good portion of y'all, a lot of y'all, actually don't mind a passive person. Y'all don't mind a person that's friendly or easygoing. Don't get caught up in the whole situation with social media and TikTok. There's still a lot of women out there that are fine with that. But there is a good portion that do fear that a passive person indicates a lack of ambition, a lack of leadership, and a lack of willingness to protect them or the family. There's a key difference between how men view passiveness in other men as weakness, and how women view passiveness in men as other weaknesses. If the women don't deem men as a person that asserts himself constantly, they might feel that they do not show up when it's necessary. So it goes back to the protection of the women, and with that, I understand. Obviously, an assumption that isn't necessarily true, because a passive guy will stand up and fight for who he loves and what is right. And then there's a small section of women that, if you're passive, you're deemed sassy or zesty or even gay. I swear to God, I cannot wait to make a video about homophobia. Get the subs to 500. You're gonna get that video. I have a lot to talk about concerning that. And then we get to society. Society does not reward a lot of things. And being a passive person is one of them. They not only create the system that causes men and women to act like this, but they also stigmatize the men through invisibility. The passive person doesn't get the promotion because they deem them not assertive enough. The system rewards loudness. It rewards aggression. You see that with who runs the office. Whether it's right or wrong, that's just the reality of society. And as a passive person, you learn that early on, even as a kid. Either we have to adapt to the societal norms and try to be more aggressive, even though it's not going to come off natural and it's going to be obvious that it's not natural, or it changes us completely, most likely for the worse, or we continue to be ourselves and maintain who we really are and deal with the trials and hurdles of being the passive person that society has placed. It's tremendous weight, very tremendous weight. So here's what I want to talk about when it comes about being passive. Because every trait they deem as weakness has the other side to it. That quietness that you have, that's patience. Patience is powerful because while everybody is reacting, you're just observing. You're getting the full picture before you make a decision. The fact that you don't try to dominate or be the loudest in every room you're in, that makes you more of a person that people can be comfortable around. You're not a threat. You don't try to pose a threat. You don't care about being a threat. That doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. That means that you're easy for people to confide to and talk to. You're a calming energy. And in a world that's very chaotic, especially nowadays, that's rare and very valuable. That humility, when you're not trying to push your own agenda, that makes you a better listener, a better collaborator. People will actually want to talk to you because they don't have to feel like they have to fight for what they feel or fight for a space to talk in. You open yourself up for conversation and you create a space for people to have a conversation with you and they feel comfortable saying what they feel. And one of our greatest strengths is being the most observant person in the room. There are so many times where I'm just quiet and I'm just chilling. Not because I'm shy, not because I don't want to talk to people, because I want to see what goes around in the room that I'm in. The passive person can peep what the loudest person can overlook because he's too concerned with being the loudest person. He's more concerned about making his voice known than understanding the circumstances around him, not the passive person. So to wrap this up, I just want to make a statement to all the passive dudes out there who are struggling with being themselves and feel like what they're being, what kind of person they are, is wrong. Y'all have heard, I know myself has heard, whether it be the family members, whether it be the women or men that you've dated or have feelings for, Whether it be your own friends, you've all been called passive, and y'all all deemed it as an insult. I know I have, but I'm here to tell you, there's nothing wrong with being a passive person. Not the way you move, not the way you communicate, not the way you process it. Being passive is not the issue that you have. And yes, there is a limit of being passive. There is a thin line between passive and permissible. But that's always the case when it comes to traits in general. Too much is always an issue. Extremities are always a bad thing. That's not just a passive thing. That's for every trait. But being passive is not a flaw. It's just not loud. But we confuse being loud as a flaw because society has programmed us to think that the loudest person in the room is the most successful person in the room, is a person that is filled with joy and fulfillment. And that's not always the case. Being passive does not mean you're a pushover. It does not mean you're a bitch. It does not mean you can't lead. It just means you do those types of things differently. And that's not a bad thing. I spent a long time in spaces, whether it be growing up in white suburbia and dealing with white spaces, dealing with black spaces, male spaces, on the internet like Twitter or Discord, or in real life like a workplace or college. There were many times where I felt like I didn't belong or something was wrong with me because I wasn't as aggressive as the males that I was surrounding myself with. I wasn't as aggressive as the family that I grew up around. And while still haven't fully deprogrammed that thought in my head, I can happily say that I accepted the fact that I am a passive guy, and that's great. But what caused things to click in my head finally, and what changed me to start getting rid of that mindset, was realizing that the problem wasn't the trait, it was the framework people were using to judge it. To all the men in the world, especially the black men, from the young ones to the ones that are my age and even older, be proud of your passiveness. Be happy with who you are. Shit, the world needs more calm in it anyway. That's all I got. Y'all have a blessed night, day, whatever. Peace.
Yeah. You know, you must embrace it. Can't run from it, you gotta face it. Yeah. You know, it's in your hands to be a better man. Handle your business, man. Yeah. You know, gotta stay true. Wherever you go through can't break you. Yeah.
Right.
So what?